What's up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dave from Chase to Summit, and today we're going to be talking about a brand new firmware and software update for your COROS watch. If you're unaware, COROS is really good at providing new features and updates to your existing hardware, and that's what's happening now. In the past, they added some new features like automatic HRV tracking and a real weather widget that I didn't even talk about in previous videos. And now with this new update, you're getting an additional 3 new features with all-day stress tracking, a wellness check feature, and a new running form test. Before we dive into all of these new features and what they're all about, let's talk about what watches will actually get this new firmware update. The good news is just about every single COROS watch out there will get this update except for 2 different models, and that's going to be the original Apex with the smaller and larger version, and the COROS Pace 1 and the Decathlon Kiprun 500, I think they called it, which is similar to the COROS Pace 1. So those watches, they're a lot older. Those are like 4 or 5 years old now, and because of that, they are not getting this firmware update because they're limited on internal storage. And when it comes to availability on this new update, it's going to be available on February 1st. It's currently available in beta, so if you're enrolled in the beta program, you can try it out now, and for everybody else, you'll be able to get this update on February 1st. With all of that out of the way, let's dive right into these new features, and for testing, I've been testing all this new stuff on my COROS Pace 3 here for the past week or so I'll be speaking mainly about my experience on this watch, but it should be the same on whatever you're using. Okay, first up is going to be daily stress tracking, and this is pretty interesting. So if you've watched any COROS review from me in the past, there's always one gripe I have with these watches, and it's that, yeah, they do track your sleep and, you know, some of your daily wellness like steps and things like that, but they don't have any of that advanced wellness tracking stuff like Garmin, for example. And now we're starting to see these new features pop up on the COROS platform as well. So what is daily stress tracking? Well, as the name implies, it basically tracks your all-day stress throughout the day. Now, this could be a couple of different things. This could be mental stress, whether you have anxiety, you're stressed out at work, or you're stressed out about money or something like that. That will be reflected here. But on top of that, it's going to be physical stress in your body. That could be getting over some hard effort, like a really long run or ultra marathon, or being overtrained, or even getting over an illness, or drinking too much alcohol the day before will lead to stress on your body the following day. Now that I've talked about what stress tracking is, let's take a look at how it's used on the watch itself. So I've got my COROS Pace 3 here, and if I scroll through the widgets and go down to the bottom of the page here, you're gonna notice a new widget for stress tracking. If I tap in on that, you're gonna see a graph of my all-day stress. And in here at the top, you would see my real-time stress reading, but I'm not wearing the watch right now, so it's not displaying anything. And below that, we have a graph of the past 24 hours that I can actually scroll through using the little dial on the side here, or I can just use my finger and scroll through on the touchscreen. Even though the stress tracking is available to view directly on the watch, it's far easier to view this information on a larger screen directly on your phone, because all of this data is synced over to your COROS app on your phone as well. So here you can see I'm in my COROS app. I haven't been wearing the watch too much today, so there's not a lot of data here, but I'll scroll down to the bottom, and you're gonna see that there's a new widget for stress tracking, and I can dive into that widget, and as you can see here, there's a lot more information to view here as compared to on the watch itself. And of course, if I go up to the graph there, I can also swipe back through previous days to see my stress over time, and you can see that on previous days, I did go for a run. For example, here I did a 10-mile run on this day, and if I tap and hold on the graph, I can kind of scan over the stress in real time. And during that event, when I went on that 10-mile run, you can see that my stress was very high while I was running, which does make sense. Now, this is what I found kind of interesting, because COROS is actually collecting stress data while you're working out. And that's something the competition doesn't really do. So if you look at my Garmin Connect, for example, you can see that I do have very similar stress data for this exact day. So on January 20th, the graph looks very similar between COROS and Garmin Connect, which is great. However, on Garmin Connect, Garmin seems to omit stress data from activities. So when I went for this particular run wearing my Garmin and a COROS watch, the COROS collected stress data while the Garmin just blacked out that period of time. I don't really know why. I just thought it would be worth pointing out. Let's just quickly talk about how to use this information. So for me, I really do like the stress feature on my Garmin watch, and I'm glad to see it here on the COROS watch as well, because if I'm starting to feel sick or overtrained, at a glance I can actually look at this data and see, yeah, that makes sense, and it sort of validates a reason for not maybe going on that long, hard workout on that given day. It's important to note though that this data may or may not be accurate. I have no way of testing this out in a scientific method, and you should take this whole thing with a grain of salt when you're actually planning your workouts. If you see high stress on your watch and your phone, but you feel okay that day, you could probably still go for a run. But if you feel like crap in the morning, you may want to look at your app to sort of validate that, yeah, you probably do feel like crap and maybe you're getting sick or you're overtrained, so maybe you can skip your workout that day. I just thought I should say that because a lot of people tend to put a lot of weight on these metrics when they may or may not be super accurate. There is one thing to mention about stress tracking when it comes to your COROS watch, and it's that if you do decide to turn this on, it will impact your battery life, which is kind of a bummer. COROS did provide a chart that will show the battery effects using stress tracking. I'll put that on the screen now. But as you can see, something like the COROS Pace 3 goes from 24 days of standby battery life down to 17 days. The Apex 2 Pro goes from 30 days down to 25 days, and the Apex 2 goes from 17 days to 15 days. I did find that kind of interesting because the magic with COROS watches has always been the battery life. And I do wonder, after years and years of adding new features to these things, if we're going to start seeing these battery specs move more towards something like Garmin watches because of all these additional features. But at least on the COROS watch, you do have the ability to turn stress tracking on or off if you want to conserve battery life, and that is a new setting within the watch itself. Before I move on to the next new feature, now might be a good time to drop down below and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. And of course, drop into the description down below where you'll find links to COROS products and of course all my other social media things, so check that out as well. Moving right along to the next new feature in this update called Wellness Check. And again, this feature is very similar to a feature on the Garmin platform called Health Snapshot. I wonder if there's going to be a lawsuit. So basically, Wellness Check is pretty much a snapshot of your health at a given time. You see what I did there? And this will give you your heart rate information, your HRV information, your stress for that given point in time, your breathing rate at that given point of time, and finally your SpO2 or your blood oxygen saturation level. Let's talk about how this feature works. So as you can see from my watch face on my Pace 3, I want to hold the back button for a couple of seconds to get to this menu. Then I'm going to scroll around until I find the Wellness Check option, which will be right about here. Let's click on that, and as you can see, it says measuring heart rate, and to be very still, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to hold the watch on there, and it will start measuring all these different metrics. So as you can see, we're halfway through measuring. It's showing my heart rate on the screen there, and now we've completed the Wellness Check, and as you can see, it shows all of my stats and metrics from that Wellness Check. At the top, we have my heart rate being 83 beats per minute. It's a little bit high because I'm filming a video right now. Then we've got my HRV at 47 milliseconds, my stress at 53, my breathing rate at 17, and my SpO2 at 98%. All this information is available within the COROS app on your phone. All the way down at the bottom here, there's a new widget for Wellness Check. So if I click in on that widget, you can see all of the metrics I just showed you on the watch itself, my heart rate, HRV, stress, breathing rate, and SpO2, and there's actually a button in the top corner here for history. And now you can see all of the wellness checks that I've performed since I've had this new update. And again, just like in the stress tracking feature at the bottom of the page here, there is a little blurb on what this all means and how to use it. Now for me, in terms of how useful this is, I don't find it to be very useful, but it is something I performed in the past when I was sick. On my Garmin watch, I would do a health snapshot to see where I stood at a given point in time. And if you are somebody with maybe a health condition and you want to check in on yourself now and then, this might be worth trying. It is an interesting new feature and I'm glad it's there. I just don't know how I'll use it in my daily life. Moving right along to the next new feature in this update, and that's going to be a new running form test. To perform this new running form test, you will need a compatible COROS watch with this new update, but you also need a COROS pod. And on top of having a COROS pod, you do need to wear it in a particular way. COROS pod 2 can be worn on your foot, on your shoe, using the included clip, or you can wear this on the back of your shorts or running pants. And that's how you need to wear this in order to perform this test. The COROS pod 2 has to be on the back of your shorts to perform this test and not on your shoe. After you've got the pod 2 paired to your watch and connected to the back of your shorts, you will dive into your activity list and dive into the fitness test option, where you will see two options: the running fitness test, which was previously there, and the new running form test below that. Now, when I click on the running form test, it will instruct you to connect the COROS pod to your waist, and it shows a little diagram on how to connect that. I will click OK. It will say perform the test on flat terrain, and then press the back button to end the test early. Estimated completion time is 10 minutes. Scrolling down one more time shows you the breakdown of this workout that makes up this test. First, you've got a 5-minute warm-up that is between a 10:49 and 9:06 pace. And if I scroll down, it drops into the actual test, which is 5 minutes long, steady state run, and to keep the pace between 7:21 and 8:09. So I went out and I performed this test on my COROS watch just to see what it was all about. I did find it was kind of hard to stay within that pace bracket because the pace on my watch wasn't reflected as quickly as I wanted to. So by the time I hit a 7:21 pace, I was already going too fast, and then when I slowed down, I would fall out of range again, but I did get it done. After you complete the test on your watch and the data is synced over to your phone, within the COROS app, you'll see this test pop up right away. It will pop up just like any other activity. So from your homepage, you'll see a new activity, it'll show the mileage and pace and all that information, but on top of that, you will see a little icon that says running form in blue. Now, what's interesting about this is this activity is just like any other activity. It will save to your activity list, it will sync over to Strava or Apple or Google, wherever you send things. But on top of that, if you dive into the actual activity, it will provide a whole bunch of data about your running form, and it's a little bit overwhelming. So as you can see here at the top of the page, we've got a map of my activity, but as I scroll down, we'll get all of that running form test information. At the top, we have a running form score, and I got a 75.5, which I don't think is great. Now below that, we have my cadence, my stride length, my ground contact time, my average pace for this particular run, the activity time, and the total distance acquired. Then below that, we have this really cool triangular graph that shows skill, strength, and balance, and sort of a diagram and how that all shakes out and where my strengths are. Now on this little triangular graph, if you click on the assessment detail button, you are granted a whole bunch more information. So at the top, we have a running form score. It says I'm a ground runner, puts me in yellow. Then we have the evaluation criteria, and you can toggle strength, balance, or skill to get even more information here. And like I said, this is a little bit overwhelming, like strike angle, stride ratio. There's a lot of information here. But what I did find cool about this, if I scroll to the bottom, you'll see evaluation summary. And I feel like this is the most useful part of this test. It tells me just in plain simple terms what it all means. So it says your running form category is ground runner, skill is good, strike angle is moderate, stride ratio is large. It's recommended to reduce excessive bouncing. Going back to the main test page here, let's scroll down further. You can see we got all the standard stuff from this particular run, like a pace chart, my heart rate chart. We've got my ground cadence, stride length, running power, ground contact time, left-right balance, stride ratio, stride height. And then at the bottom, we do have a workout breakdown that shows your distance, your time, and your average pace during those phases. Another nice feature within the COROS app in this new running form test is if you do have a running coach where you want to share all this data, you can simply tap that share icon at the top of the screen, swipe over once to detail view, and now we'll actually export a giant vertical image of all this information that you can simply text over to your running coach, and they can go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So that is the running form test. And again, I don't know how useful this is going to be in practical terms. I'll need more time with it and more testing to figure that out. But for now, a welcome new feature. Okay, friends, we made it to the end of the video, and now's the point where I want to hear from you. Are you a COROS watch user? Are you excited about these new features? Have you been testing them out in beta? Let me know in the comments down below what you think about it. And of course, if you don't have a COROS watch and you're watching this, has this swayed you to get one? Let me know that too in the comments down below. And that is it. We've made it to the end of this video, and if you're still watching, you probably liked this video. And if you did, please consider going down and giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel down below so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. I'd really appreciate that. Also, check out the links in the description if you're planning on picking up a COROS watch, and check out the links down below if you want to check out my podcast or my Instagram or any of the other things I'm doing. Check those out too. All right, that's it. I'll see you next time. Bye.